Alright, how are you keeping? You're very, very welcome to episode 2 of the From the Depths podcast. As always, my name is Emmett. And yeah, you're very, very welcome to another episode of the show. So on episode 2, I sat down with none other than a good mate of mine by the name of Mr. David O'Mahony. David is a Cork man living in Ballincollig, but most of you are probably going to know him through his involvement with Cork black metal band Gealach. The lads in Gealach have an LP on the way, which we touch on a little bit throughout the interview that's coming up next. As well as that, he's a bit of a jack of all trades as it pertains to all things Irish extreme metal, as he is involved in a studio project under the name of Cursewielder. He is editor-in-chief of Irish Extreme Metal Fanzine Flail of Venom, and to top it all off, he also runs his own label under the name of Fomorian Hate Records, which put out a plethora of solid releases throughout 2020 when we needed them the most, and have an absolute plethora more to come throughout 2021 too, which we were all very much looking forward to. So yeah, without me waffling on any further, lads, here is our little sit-down interview with Mr. David O'Mahony. Enjoy. Alright, so I am sitting down with Mr. David O'Mahony. David, what is the crack? You well?
Not too bad, how are you?
I'm good, man, I'm good. I was actually thinking a small bit before we started this interview about how we met and stuff like this, and it links into what we'll be talking about later on. But I recorded a little bit of an intro thing for before this interview starts, and I cover all the stuff about you being involved in Gealach and the Cursewielder stuff and Fomorian Hate and Flail of Venom and all that. But what I'd say a few listeners probably won't know is how we actually met, which was the Siege Limerick, I'd say about 3 years ago. And I'd say most now, because they know you through Gealach and stuff, probably wouldn't remember that you actually played in Appenham for a while. And I was just thinking, I got a bit of a laugh to myself there. The first time that we actually met, I remember you were with your Mrs. Zoe, and it was daytime downstairs in Dolan's. And I think it was, she introduced us and everything like that. And she was like, "Oh, Emmett, are you keeping up with the music now?" And I remember just going, sure, yeah, gave up on the guitar. I don't have the patience for that, so starting bass, that's easy enough. And I had no idea that you were standing there a bass player at the time, like, you know what I mean? And it wasn't until a few weeks later I copped that, and I was like, oh, this fella's going to fucking hate me now. And it didn't help then later that evening after I saw you play with Appenham. I'd say it was about an hour or two after you played, and I was absolutely fucking langers. And I was talking to Zoe, because she was like, "Oh, how did you find Dave's band and everything like this?" And I was like, "Oh man, the stage presence was absolutely unreal, like this to her, like." And she was there, and she was like, "Oh, go over and say it to him." So, and I felt so bad for me, because I don't know if you drank at the time, and you were just standing there with a pint in your hand, and I was just there fucking burning the ear off you. I was like, "Man, the stage presence was unreal," and you were just like, "Oh, cheers, boy."
I actually don't remember that at all. You could have blamed that on someone else easily and got away with it, like, you know.
Oh Jesus! I shouldn't have opened my mouth at all. So, but here the one thing, and I don't think we've ever we talked about this a small bit before you made the decision to leave Appenham, but as I'm going to lead into a small bit of the Gealach stuff now, but with your decision to leave Appenham, how was there any thought of Gealach in any way before you decided to make that move? Because I know you wanted to do more extreme stuff anyway. But was there whispers between yourself and the lads about starting that off at that point, or were you just kind of like a bit of a clean slate and I'll start off from here?
No, that was I'd say for someone like you, it would have been, the band would have been new, but for us, we were kind of practicing for about a year, with no online presence at all, so there was no kind of starting fresh. And look, I no disrespect to the lads, like, I loved playing with them, but it just wasn't 100% my thing. Like, there was no one really in Cork playing black metal anyway, so I was just doing it on my own. So once that chance came, I kind of jumped at it, like, and no, it was just kind of one of those things, like, didn't want to be in a band that wanted dedication on one end, and I couldn't give it to them. So yeah, I think it worked out for everyone in the end, though. But just kind of like one of those things, like, you kind of start a band because I was in that band when I was about 17. Like, I was in a band before that, and I've always been in a band. But like, I think it's the first one now where I actually have some bit of a passion for what I'm playing. So yeah.
Yeah, because I know now that you mentioned this before, and I'd say the majority of people won't know, or that are listening won't know, is like how Appenham kind of formed, from what I believe, is like you were saying this before, you were playing in a blues group, a covers type of group and stuff like that, and one of the lads from God Alone was in that group. But was it the Mastodon gig in Cork that you guys, that the few of you met, and that was how Appenham started and everything like that?
As far as I remember, that was it. It was after my leaving cert anyway, and I met Dave, and he was from Waterford, and as I said, like, I was playing in a blues band, and that was great. That kind of fell apart for me anyway. Around the time I wanted to start playing more metal because I was actually in a prog rock band as well before that.
Oh Jesus, no way. What was the story with that?
Well, we had like I'd say 4 or 5 gigs, and we had a few covers, but like we wrote a few tunes. And shout out to Mick McCarthy. He's in Dublin now, but he was the drummer. And I remember when I was playing with him, I'd say I was about 17, and I'd say he was 13, 14. He was writing all the lyrics, like. So I just want to give a shout out to him because he's an absolute legend. He's like I just call him Mini Neil Pearce, But no, I was in a prog rock band, and that fell apart. And then I was in a blues rock band, and that was good, but that was kind of there was a few clashes there. And then I was in a metal band, obviously, but still no extreme metal going on in Cork. That was kind of my age group. All the lads were either done and dusted, or they were kind of they had families and proper jobs, so they were kind of they were just playing the odd gig every now and then. There was no one really playing seriously. And I actually played in a band with Jur before Gealach. It was a black metal band. It's actually the first release, if you could even call it that, on the label, because basically Jur was playing with this fella called Hack from pretty sure he's from Libya. Sorry now if it was a different country, but he was jamming with them, and they needed a bass player, and that's how I met Jur. And then at one point I was going up to Clare on the train, and I met Hack, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going home to fucking Libya." So that was the end of that. But I knew Jur, so there was no guitar player like around the place. So I just started playing guitar to myself, and then of course Jack got onto us, and that was it, like.
Do you know what's weird about you saying that, about there being like no kind of extreme scene? Well, there wasn't really a scene in Cork for the longest time there for a while, but like back in the late 90s, early 2000s, from what I've gathered on like Instagram and Irish Metal Archives and stuff, there used to be like a big enough scene down in Cork and stuff like that, and it just seemed to have went to the west side. But like, it's actually a nice segue now, because I remember just after you guys put out the Gealach demo there, is it a year ago now or 2 years since that came out?
Jeez, I'd say
was that
last summer or now? It was 2018.
Yeah. I know. I knew it was a while away, but yeah, because I remember like when that came out and everything. I remember I told you this one before now, but I have to mention it again. Was like I won't name the person's name or anything like that, because I really don't want to be throwing him shade on the air. But I remember I was stuck in the smoking area in Dolan's one time. It was literally just by pure chance. I just happened to go out in the smoking area, and this fella, loveliest lad in the world, burning the absolute ear off me, and like Jack, like as everyone knows, is in Carosa as well. In Carosa, we're just starting inside. And Jesus, I was trying to get out of this conversation like mad and everything this. And I don't know the fella's name for the life of me. All I know is I recognized him from Onlit. I knew he was a Corkhead.
That was Ollie, I'd say.
Yeah.
He's actually from Mayo, so
is it? Fair enough. I'll be getting shade now if I ever interview Carosa over that. But no, he was just passing with the drumstick and everything, trying to go inside. And I caught him in my eyesight, and did not fit in with the conversation I was having with this fella at all. And I literally just went as loud as I could, obnoxiously, just kind of like, Jesus, that Gealach demo, that was a fucking breath of fresh air now. And he just stopped and soon he goes, "Oh, fucking tell me about it like this." And as he was making the beeline in with the chair, I just goes behind him, I was like, "Walk on, man, walk on."
I remember you telling me that. He saved you there a couple of times, I think. Whenever you saw him, I think you were saying, you mentioned the band name, he pulled you out of situations you didn't want to be.
Genuinely, I'd say about 2 or 3 times that night, like, do you know what I mean? Big shout out to himself.
Well, it was his drum kit that the demo was recorded on, because we were sharing rehearsal room with them, and pretty sure it was his kit. Maybe it was some of Jor's cymbals, but yeah, no, he loved that demo. he almost wanted to join the band as a second drummer at one point. He loved it so much. But yeah, Ollie's great, like.
Yeah, no, really sound. I think that was my only time meeting him now. But no, that was actually a common enough thing that I heard from like I won't like obviously the majority of our own age group enjoyed the demo a lot, and as well as the live release you put out as well not long after. Sure, the evidence and that was like the last time you got to play would have been what was it, Urban Assault back in February, and sure the majority of the crowd like it was really a mix of like kind of young lads in their kind of early to mid 20s, and then the rest of it was all lads in kind of like their early 40s, maybe towards kind of their late 40s, early 50s. And what I've always got, if that ever comes up, do you know when you're kind of like, you'd probably know this yourself when you're in like a smoking area at a gig and you're making conversation with someone. Every time that I would mention that to someone, I'd always get like, you know, they'd tell me their rant about how they were in a band and they were doing this back in the early 2000s. And I was fully expecting for a while, and maybe it would have happened if lockdown didn't kind of come into effect and the pandemic didn't start, that a lot of older lads probably would have went back playing and doing something in a studio capacity over that. So I know a lot of the older lads love that demo. But anyway, I'm waffling on a small bit. Tell us.
I'll just say that our first gig, what was it, September 2019 or something?
Oh, the one with Sacrilegia,
yeah. Yeah, I remember because we applied for the Siege, which we got, and we were like, fuck, we better play a kind of warm-up gig, I guess. And, you know, we all played in bands before. You know, I played hundreds of gigs, I'd say. So it was no problem, but it was just kind of like, you know, first band kind of thing, or first gig kind of thing. And we were like, well, we put something on in Fred's, and probably we'll organise it, but the best thing to do would be get an out-of-town band as the headline, because no one will show up if we're the headline, you know. And it worked a treat, but I'm not like, I don't care about age, but like I think the thing about that gig was I'd say I was the youngest in the room, like, you know, and I'd say a lot of people came out of the woodwork for it because it just wasn't really happening in Cork anyway for ages. And all the lads who are kind of in bands now, you know, the likes of Soothsayer and stuff, like they would have played in bands 20 years ago. They would have been in those bands. So if they're not playing in a band now, you know, some of them relocate, so, you know, they settle down and stuff. But, you know, a lot of them actually journeyed up for that gig, and it was really cool, you know, to be part of it.
It's nice to see there's a bit of resurgence kind of in the more extreme end of stuff kind of outside of Dublin. Like death metal in Ireland is always, you know, university has always been like death metal bands in pockets of the country all over the place. But when it comes to kind of like more black metal and stuff like that, and like even kind of black and thrash and stuff, you don't really see it as much anymore outside of like the Pale. Like all the Invictus bands and stuff are all in Dublin. You might have like the odd band like come out of the woodworks, might last for a few months and kind of, oh, sorry, I'm after hitting off that. They might kind of be there for a few months, put out a demo and go on the wayside again. Loads of studio projects coming up all over the place. But I know that like I've noticed anyway after you guys put out that demo, a lot of more bands. I don't want to say it was a direct result because I think that you know it would be arrogant to me to say that now. But I don't know if it was timing or whatever. But a lot of bands seem to be like, especially around our age, seem to kind of be coming out of the woodwork and playing that style of music again, which is brilliant because, like I was saying, for the longest time, it's always been everything's going on in Dublin in regards to that, or it's going on in Belfast, and the rest of the country is pretty silent. So it's just nice to see, like, do you know what I mean?
I don't even think it was like, you know, I'm not trying to be big-headed, but I think people just kind of, I don't know, some sort of disruption or something. I don't know. But I just, I hope that like there's some, you know, 17, 18-year-olds who are getting into it and, you know, well, I know lockdown is not going to happen, but, you know, who just happen to see that gig going on in Fred Zeppelin's or whatever, and they start doing something themselves, like, you know, that'd be nice to see because, you know, it's a dying breed, like, you know. So.
Oh, that's exactly it. It seems to be very common now where, like, when lads get into metal, like, their first bands or the first few bands are often either they jump straight into a thrash band and try to play as fast as possible, or they jump into, like, a death metal band or something like that. I know I'm often small, but now I'll move on, like, but you know what I mean? It's just nice to see that kind of
Yeah.
But anyway, what was the gap between, like, you were saying there that you were kind of talking about it and kind of jamming away for about a year. What was the gap between you leaving Appenham and you deciding, okay, we're going to belt away with this now? Like, when had the songwriting process for the first demo already started in that first year, or was it just kind of jamming around and seeing what you can do?
I kind of left them sometime between the first gig and Siege, because Siege was my last gig with them.
Oh, yeah, you're right. So, I remember that actually. Yeah, no, my bad.
No, it's not in a bad way, but it was just kind of one of those things where, you know, a few months before that, I was like, no, this is kind of the best thing to do, and you know, I think everyone's happy about. They got a guy who fits better than me, I think, and I'm playing what I want to play. So
That's it. They get to do what they want to do as well, so it
yeah,
works out for
exactly. Yeah.
everyone. Like, but yeah. So I know a lot of people kind of begrudge me if I don't ask about this. You put out the teaser for the full length, which is on its way. Can you give us a small bit of insight about that at all, or is it all hush hush?
Well, maybe it's our fault, but a few people seem to think the post I put up is the artwork, and it's not. So there's that anyway. I
Yeah,
think I showed you the artwork.
yeah. I haven't been allowed to say anything. I won't
Yeah.
even. I won't
No.
even say anything now. I'll keep it all hush hush.
Well, it's Jor was doing up, Jor paints, and he did up a few kind of ideas, and the thing I posted was just one of those ideas. It's not even a thing we were going to use as the cover. It just had the same kind of energy, I suppose. But yeah, no, I think the album it's had an unfortunate like delay, but no, we did. The thing about the album is we've done everything ourselves. When the lockdown hit, we had enough songs for an album, and we were debating going to the studio or whatever. But I think I can't even remember, but me and Jor anyway decided we bought all the microphones, all the equipment. We tracked the drums, and then we just eventually tracked the guitars, bass. I'm in the middle of doing vocals because, as you can imagine, doing vocals like that in a full house isn't really that easy. But no, like it's almost entirely DIY. Jor's done the artwork. I've done all the mixing and recording, and it's not. I'm not trying to say like. I think the important thing about it is if it's 100% DIY, it's not to be used that as a kind of shield of in case it sounds bad, but also not as a kind of boasting thing. We knew what sound we wanted. We didn't think with the time and the studios we could have got to in that time or whatever. We didn't think that was going to get what we want, so we just did it ourselves, and I think I'm pretty happy with it. It's 6 songs, I think. Yeah. I think 1 or 2 people haven't heard, 1 or 2 have been on the live tape, another 2 then are fleshed out. But yeah, just similar themes. If anything, I just want to get it out so we can move on because I've already written 2 or 3 new songs. So
And you've been sitting with that for the past few months as well.
Well, I made it a point to not write until the bones of the album were done because I didn't because I've been in bands before where you're recording or you've planned out to record 4 songs, and while you're doing that you've written 2 songs that are obviously ones you prefer or they're more recent or whatever because and then you haven't even released the new recordings and you've already got these new songs and you're like, well, I wish they were on the recording. So I made it a point to not write until the vocals anyway, and now just with the lockdown, me and Jer kind of have cold feet, and we're like, right, let's write some new songs, and yeah, there's nothing crazy, not a big change. I think they're a bit more fleshed out, a bit better, but look, I don't want to be harping on about unreleased songs, but.
Well, you never know. Like we touched on earlier. Do you know what I mean? So many people were so excited by the demo and stuff that I'd say people are going to kind of be harping for the album at this rate. Do you know what I mean?
Well, the album, the album, the demo we did ourselves as well, but that was a bit more there was less, drum mics and stuff like that. Whereas now we kind of took our time and added more stuff. I added a lot of keys, I guess, and intros and percussion, and we added some acoustic guitar parts and all that kind of stuff, So I wouldn't say experiment, but just kind of give the songs that extra bit of atmosphere and stuff like that. But no, the thing about it is, we now know we have a setup that has this minimum result. So when the time comes, it's all set up in our rehearsal room, so we can just hit record, and if anything, it'll be much faster than this album. So yeah, we have plans to release as much as we want, really, to be honest. There's no no waiting time for a year or anything. There's no gigs, like, so we're just gonna plow on to the next one straight away, to be honest.
Lovely stuff. Could you give us an expected release date for the album yet, or is that still to be decided?
Well, I was aiming for February, but it never happens. But to be honest, as soon as those vocals are done, it's getting mastered, and that won't take too long. And I'd say while it's getting mastered, might try and throw it around to a few labels. But if no one picks it up or whatever, we're just going to put it out and maybe put out tapes. I'd like it on vinyl, but beggars can't be choosers. Like, to be honest, I'd like it on vinyl mainly because Jer's artwork is so nice.
Yeah, that was what I was just about to say. I can't wait now for the day that you get to throw that artwork out there, because I don't like. I really, really liked it, and I think the thing is, when people see it, I don't think they're going to expect it. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't be my immediate thought, my first thought when I would think of Gealach, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, it totally makes sense. Like, do you know what I mean?
That's it, and that's why it's so handy having someone in the band who actually can even draw. To be honest, like he paints on canvas and he knows what, like he wrote the songs as well, like so he knows exactly what to put in. I think like we didn't want anything too detailed or too raw or whatever. I think it's right in the middle. You can see the smudges of paint on it. It's so cool. But if people don't like it, I don't give a shit. Like, so.
Oh yeah, fuck them. Like, do you know what I mean? I don't mean to be brass, like, but it's your album at the end of the day as well. Like, do you know what I mean? It's your whole piece of art that you're putting together. Like, so it's art is very like it's all objective. Like, do you know what I mean? So it's grand. Like. But shout out to Jor as well, lads. If you want to check out some of his artwork, what's his Instagram? Is it Jor Callahan?
He's after gone off of Instagram. I went off Facebook, and then he went off Instagram. So you can't. But the thing is, he's still selling pieces. So I don't know how people are getting onto him. But Jor Callahan. Anyway, you probably find something on.
Yeah, I'd hope so. Anyway, now like after giving them the plug, like, but anyway, since we touched on releases and everything like that, I just want to touch over the Fomorian Hate stuff for a small bit. Was it anything to do with Gealach? Was the formation of that, or I remember us talking about it? I'd say was it about a year ago when the first release? I'm always getting the pronunciations wrong. It's the Scottish release. What was it? Was it Slough or Slough?
Slua.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened there was when we did our first gig, the Gealach gig, I was messing around and you were involved in this too. I put together a zine, and like people can tell me like, oh, well, who cares about zines in 2021? But look, it was kind of a, how would you say, a project, and to be honest, it actually it sold out before the first band went on, so people clearly came up to the gig to buy it, so they helped like. But no, like we did that, and I was only planning to do like 30 for the gig as a kind of thing to entice people to come. But then people were saying they missed one and whatever, so I had to make more, and I didn't really have a medium to sell them. So I just made a Bandcamp and dressed it up as a kind of record label. So the label wasn't even like I was like, oh, I'm going to make a record label and sell all this music. I just needed something to sell the zines, and as I was saying earlier, I played a bit in a band with Jer. They recorded a small demo, and they never really put that out, and I just said to them, look, I'll kind of remaster it and throw it up. I just need something to, because on Bandcamp, like obviously it's music, like, so you need something musical on the page. It can't just be merch.
Yeah.
So I put that up, and then I had the zine up, and then we had the live tape. So I just said, look, I'll just put it under this name, and then I'd say sometime last Christmas I was like, oh, I'll put something else out, just something that hasn't been put on tape or whatever. And I just found that band Slua, and I thought it was a cool release. It's not like, I think the label isn't really like this kind of like, it's like a glorified hobby almost. I enjoy doing it, but I'm not looking to make a living or anything like that. I just want to put out, if something like, not put something out every month or anything. Just if something's cool and I think I'd like to push it, even if it's 30 copies. Like that's that's what it's all about. Like we run on pre-orders, so like no one really loses money, and it's quite like I get them manufactured, but I kind of throw in DIY stuff. So it's kind of a hobby, but like as you're saying there, yeah, Slua was the first band, and they're from Scotland, so it kind of that was a bit of a shot in the dark, because I was like, well, if anyone's going to buy this tape, they're going to only know the label because they're from Cork or Ireland or whatever, and no one's going to know this band, so who's going to buy it? And I had to buy 50, and 50 is not a lot, but like when I was doing a master's at the time, and I didn't have a whole lot of money, but people bought it straight away, and then I was like, oh well, I can do another one or two of these, and I think I'm on number 10 soon anyway. I've got 3 coming out another 2 weeks, so by the time this is out, they're probably out anyway. But yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that, because that Slua release was absolutely fantastic. Because I remember us talking about it, and you were going on about like you weren't really sending out feelers or anything like that looking for applications, but like I remember us talking a small bit about like some of the applications you were gotten, and like some of them were, as you were saying, were absolutely dire. And then like you were praising the Slua one and everything like that. And as soon as I heard that, I was kind of like, mother of Christ, it was a phenomenal fucking album.
They didn't actually get onto me. I got onto them. That's
right.
See, that's the kind of when like that. I think I was worried, because I was like, oh, I'm going to get onto these lads, and I have no back catalogue. Now I put the Gealach tape out, and there's that demo from Gealach and stuff, but it wasn't really a label, and I was just kind of almost at this, because I think all of them are in other kind of bigger bands, so this band was kind of their just kind of separate thing, and they actually released that on vinyl and everything recently. So but I put it out first, I suppose, and yeah, I got onto them. I was like, look lads, I like the songs, I'm looking to start something up. Do you wanna do this or not? And they were good with it. Like, sent them a few copies and stuff. But yeah, no, it's just a few of the bands, like I feel like anything that isn't local, I generally get onto first, or I'm talking to already, because there's just, you'll know yourself, you go to black metal tag on Bandcamp, and there's like something new every day, like, and it's not even, no disrespect, some of it is very half arse stuff.
Yeah.
Not that it's like I don't like it, but just like it's you can tell they just put it out because it's one of those styles you can just do, and it doesn't matter what it sounds like. So there's a lot of climbing around thorns.
Oh, definitely. It's very much, if you're trying to find good black metal on Bandcamp, but after a while, I think you very much end up having to go to like looking for specific labels, like
exactly.
Because if you go and look through the general tag of black metal, or like atmospheric black metal, like you said, you're just getting stuck into like a thorn bush, like, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But yeah, once you do find those labels, then like I know for myself, it's like Nurbintage Productions, Your Own Moment, Fomorian Hate, Iron Bonehead as well. There's loads of great labels out there to find, and it saves you having to go through that absolute cesspool of, a lot of it is like just very uninspired one-man band black metal projects, like, you know what I mean? Not to joke about the cliche of it, but a lot of it is like, that hipster one-man band project in the basement, where it's like a lad with thick frame glasses going fucking hell for leather after listening.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't even be into that kind of thing, but I think like, at least if someone's putting effort in, you can't really fault them. I don't have to like it, but like if it's someone could be like, obviously black metal for me is like Dark Throne or whatever. Someone could be playing the most Dark Throne black metal, but just not bothered, having stupid artwork or stupid name, or you can tell they don't really care. Then what's the point? Like, whereas if there's some hipster doing something I don't care about, like fucking, I don't know, Wolves in the Throne Room or something, like, it's just like, at least he's kind of like putting effort in, But yeah, no, I think the label thing, especially with the smaller labels, or the labels that are kind of sticking to like tapes or whatever, they kind of, the people buying those tapes are almost like it's like they're subscribed, but they're not even paying subscription. So because I get it anyway, that like a lot of the guys who buy my stuff it's the same 40 guys. Like, you know, I'll put out 50, 60 tapes. So about 40 of them are always the same guys. Just because, you know, they'll just buy it because it's number 10, you know,
Yeah.
so they have to have it. And I like to think they do like the songs as well, you know. I hope they're not buying it because they're like, oh, I didn't get this one, you know. But no, I did get I can't remember if it was a submission, but when I put out that Exile tape, you know, that guy, he's that's not even black metal, that's just like some folk. I was trying to say to people that like it's like the folk interludes on black metal albums. So it wasn't really like black metal or anything, but it was it had that vibe. So I was like, I'll put this out, and people loved that as well. Like, so they didn't just. I thought they were going to buy it because it was missing in their collection, but you know, a lot of people said, you know, I actually like this one just as much because it's, you know, not the exact same as the last one. So that's what I'm kind of going for. Like the next one I have, I got a band from Ireland. I won't say right now, or it got onto me. Or I announced it. Doesn't matter. Yeah. They used to be called Drought.
Oh yeah, they're Fruit now, aren't they? Yeah.
Frost. Yeah.
They're Frost. Yeah.
No, they got onto me. They were like, "We're putting this out on Cursed Monk. Do you want to do the tape?" And I was like, "Yeah, grand." Like, but that's coming out with two other things. One other thing, anyway, and the other thing is like a complete. It's like a one-man black metal. Basically, think of the band Psy. You know, it's kind of, I don't want to say prog or avant-garde, but like there's weird. I call it weird black metal, which is a compliment, I guess. But yeah, he's got the violent Asian artwork and stuff, like, you know, the kind of Japanese what's his name? I can't remember his name. The guy who did the bloody panels. Anyway, I'm rambling, but yeah, my next three releases are all very different to one another, and I think that's important, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that's one thing that I know I'm probably speaking for those 40 lads who buy all the stuff that comes out now because I'm one of them. But like the one thing I have to give you credit for and everything like that is there hasn't been a release put out through Fomorian Hate yet that has been in any way lackluster. And I'm not just saying that she hasn't made either. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm saying this now.
I'd say the Cursewielder one was a bit lackluster, but anyway.
Yeah, you say that now because you're involved in it, like, do you know what I mean? But that was actually, funny enough, that's been my favourite release from Fomorian Hate so far. That's the one I find myself putting on repeat a lot more than the rest of them. Not dismissing the rest of them at all. I actually particularly enjoy the Cursewielder one a lot more, and that's actually a very nice segue into that. So you like Gealach was gigging and stuff like that, and you were recording when the Cursewielder thing was formed. What was the reasoning behind straying off and doing the Cursewielder thing on the side? Was it just you wanted to kind of spread your wings a small bit? Had you this stuff already written and it mightn't have went with what Gealach was recording? Or
yeah,
like, do you want to touch on that a small bit for a few minutes?
Yeah, so like I was writing songs. Not that they're like that anymore, but I was kind of writing black metal songs with two guitars, and Gealach is three guitars, or sorry, three piece, so one guitar. And when I write for Gealach or when we write, it's very like kind of, you have to be conscious that there can't be too many things going on with the guitar in the, you know, demo, and then live or practicing, it's just not as full. So you kind of have to write the riffs that way, and I do that with the bass as well. So kind of like if the bass is playing a lead, the guitar isn't. If the guitar is playing lead, the bass is playing low, whatever. But the Cursewielder stuff I was playing, I was recording kind of almost Thin Lizzy-esque guitars for black metal. So like just kind of harmonizing guitars or stuff like that. And I was playing organ over it as well. So there was no drums or bass or vocals. I was just making this like odd thing. And I wanted to record it, but not as Gealach, obviously, because we don't have a keyboard player, but also just kind of not total control, but as I said, you know, wanted to do the whole 2 guitar thing and stuff like that, and just like different themes and different stuff like that, imagery and whatever, and lyrics. So I just recorded that, and then I got onto Jar, and I was like, "Look, I don't know anyone else. Do you want to play drums on it?" And he said, "Yeah." Then we had a lockdown, and I just did it over lockdown. Now it is a drum machine, but it's not. So I had drum pads, so I mapped out the drums myself, but I'm not as good. Like I can play basic stuff, but I can't do any cool fills or anything. So I mapped out the songs, like just the blasts or whatever, and then I just programmed the fills. So plus I could like up the hits a bit more. So I didn't want to credit myself as the drummer because that's just stupid. Like, but it's kind of a half thing. But Jor was meant to play drums on it, but as I said, that was the lockdown.
Yeah.
But no, we have our, as I said, because the Gealach gear, we're going to do 2 or 3 Cursewielder songs. He's going to play drums, and that's going to be for a split. And yeah, I'm going to record his other band, Everdead Wood and stuff, because I put out their demo during the summer, because I think that was it was recorded live, and they just had the tracks and I mixed them, and that people like that as well. That's kind of more Gealach-esque black metal, I guess. But yeah, we've got our own kind of like primitive studio now. So if anyone who is playing similar music wants to do something grand, like just come up to our rehearsal room, bang it out. I'll put a basic mix on it and put it on tape. Like that's kind of the goal. Like,
well, I hope it works out that way, because like it goes back to what we were saying earlier from when nearly 20 years ago, when there was a thriving scene in Cork, went a bit quiet, and now that stuff like that could be the makings of another scene. Like, because you never know who. Like you said earlier, there's a bunch of 17, 18-year-olds learning guitar and stuff. They might be spending all their time listening to all that kind of stuff at the moment now. So there might be a bunch of young lads coming out of these lockdowns now ready to form a band, and there you go. They have a safe space kind of set up where they can record and play that style of music. And that's for young fellas at that age, if they had the opportunity to have the stuff they just played, recorded and stuff like that, and had their own tape out, that could be the makings of them. Like, do you know what I mean?
No, I think that would be like brilliant, but I should probably clarify, like, it's not like kind of like I'm here like trying to do some sort of community thing, like,
oh Jesus, yeah. No, if it happens, it happens, like,
exactly. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, disadvantaged young fella, come in and stop being in gangs, like, it's more, no, not like that. Like, it's more kind of or not even like get on to me and I'll do this, because I'm not a producer. Like, I just have equipment and I have kind of knowledge of it and whatever, and I can put it out on tape and stuff. But I again, like, it's not like a charity thing either. Like, if someone I didn't know got onto me and they had good songs and they had the right ethic, like I don't see why I shouldn't help them or be involved with them.
Just wait now, like, America's fallen apart at the seams, and then you just go and you solve gangland here in Ireland by getting every young fella to fucking form a band inside the versus space. Like,
that was funny last night. That was all going on in the news, and I was watching football, and United lost, my team, obviously.
Yeah.
And I came in, I was not cross, but I was grumpy. My mom's like, the democracy of the world is falling apart and you're a crossover football match, Like, that's kind of like, it's not my problem,
Yeah. I think everyone, I know we're going off a small bit now. I think everyone really got caught off guard with that, because I know I sat down last night. I was off from work, and I sat down, I was watching Cannibal Holocaust, like, and I was there, and I fucking hate that film with the passion just for the animal scenes, like, but I tried to sit down and be like, right, I'm going to watch this now and not be any bit of a fucking squeamish when it comes to that stuff. Watched it. It's the very same story. Came down to my sitting room, was on the phone for like 2 seconds, and the first thing I see is, I threw it onto the group chat we have with the Dublin lads, and the first thing I see is like the 2 redneck lads, the Carneys from The Simpsons, and it's like, look, son, I'm an American senator, like this, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I look up, the telly, Sky News is on, and there's like fucking 1,001 rednecks inside the White House. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Like,
Yeah, it's like it's like an age now where you see the jokes before you even see the news, like, you know, and
well,
it's kind of weird. Like, yeah, I learned about what was happening through the jokes and the memes. I didn't know what was happening till after that, you know.
yeah. Yeah, do you know something? It's a nice little segue now. Since we're talking about rednecks, we can belt straight into the fanzine now, considering the pack of us that were involved
I
in the
thought you
first
were going to
one.
ask me about the cigar box.
Actually, do you know something? Before I get into the fanzine, talk a small bit about that. We were talking a small bit about it earlier before we were trying to
Uh,
sort out the way to get this done.
well, I was given a gift. Uh, there's a fella in the UK called Chicken Bone John, and he's kind of like he's like an English kind of hillbilly guy, you know, and he's got a YouTube channel, I think, and he's got a kind of business where he makes cigar box guitars, but he gives you these what do you call them, like packs, like do it yourself, whatever starter kit thing. And I was there all day putting it together and getting glue on the fingers and stuff. And it was literally minutes before we started doing this that I got it done. So yeah, I think like maybe people listen don't give a fuck about, like, you know, bluegrass, you know, stuff, blues, whatever. But you know, it's very cool, you know. So check it out. Check out Chicken Bone John. He's like you know, C Stick Steve.
Yeah, yeah, know him well, know him well. Kira's mad into him. Kira's
He's
mad into
great. Yeah,
Steve.
yeah. No, it's like that kind of stuff, you know. It's just like uh mine's like obviously just traditional cigar box, but like he's selling stuff like, you know, guitars made out of all sorts of things. He's not doing it now, but I saw one and someone made a guitar out of a hurdle. So I don't know, like, might have to get on that one. But no, it's not even like the gimmick thing either. You know, it's actually got a cool sound, like, you know, and you're playing a kind of open tuning, 3 strings. You know, if you're into like your Sonny Boy Williamson and Sonhouse and all them, you know.
Yeah, there's a mad scene for that as a late, like making custom guitars out of bits like that. Because I remember I'm probably looking at about 3 years ago now. This happened. I remember I was working. Do you know the Flack on the hair and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
big trad joke?
yeah.
I
I
was
was there.
working.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This was the year. I think this is the year before you started going out with Zoe. It's 2016. We had two of them in Ennis, and the first one I was working the full week inside in Glore just as a stagehand and whatever. And the lads headlining the very last night of that, you probably know of them. They're kind of like a weird kind of Cayley fusion band called Gealach, I think they're called. And
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, and one of their lads plays I don't know, is it a guitar or a mandolin made out of a gastral tank? And it
Probably
fucking
guitar.
looks
Yeah, I know
savage.
you've seen them around. Like they're. I think the cigar box thing is like a kind of actual history. You know, like it has
Yeah.
history. Like it's like this kind of thing of like lads who couldn't afford guitars or whatever. So they just made them, and it has their own sound. But I think like it's gone kind of almost. It's turned into something completely different with like the internet and stuff. Like, you know, people are making guitars out of dog bowls and stuff. Like, you know. But
Yeah, genuine. The I remember that so vividly though, because before that gig went ahead, we doing that stagehand shit, they always like you know, it's not for the sound tech crew to worry about this, it's like whoever stagehand has to worry about it. And we were given, like, you know, you hear about this all the time, like the rota of like drinks and stuff that people want. And they were oddly specific about it. They wanted a tray of, like, you know, 2 pints of Guinness, 3 pints of this, a gin and tonic or whatever. And
calm down, Motorhead. Like, you know.
yeah, I know. Yeah, for a fucking tread band, like 18 grams of speed on the tray, and so that's why they were playing that fast. But they had said they wanted it delivered out on stage. So I really didn't want to fucking bring it out on the stage because there was about, geez, I'd say about 700 people inside in the auditorium. But the fellow I was working with, Huey, he was like, right. So he gave me one tray, he took the other, and they were one fucking song in, man. I'm not even shitting you. We had to go into the middle of the fucking stage, and we literally did like a loop around the band, and your man holding that gastral tank. The crowd is laughing or whatever like this, but that's what they asked us to do. And he really nonchalant turns around, and you could be picked up by the microphone, and he dead eyes me and he goes, "Get the fuck off the stage!" Like this.
Oh no.
And the whole auditorium was looking. I'm
Should
pure
have
red.
taken the drink with you, like, you know.
Oh Jesus, yeah, walk out the door with all of it. Like, when I was only 17, I was like, mother of fuck, like, you know. But yeah,
I'd be
sorry.
annoyed too if my guitar was a gas tank, you know.
Yeah,
Langing.
two men to buy an actual fucking guitar. Like, there's no novelty about it or history. He was just being man. Like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
speaking of fucking rednecks and stuff like that, I don't know why I'm using this as a segue now. It's more to do with the first crop of us that were involved in it. But I need to touch on the fanzine a small bit. Issue 3 just came out there a few weeks ago. I need to ask you this because I was asked this there about, I'd say, 3 or 4 weeks ago about how that magazine came together. Had you originated that magazine months before the first issue came out, or had that started that time we were kind of talking about it in the smoke? Do you remember? I don't know. Was it you or Zoe had just graduated, and we were in the smoking area
That
of
would
that?
have been her because I graduated after. Yeah.
Oh, that was it. I remember all the girls were there, and we were literally
Oh
just
yeah,
two
I
lads.
remember that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
and
you and me. Yeah.
yeah, and we were there, and they ran into your magazine that used to own the fucking sweet shop in town. We're making scenes about it, like. But was
Nor
that?
Culligan's, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one. Was it? Was it around then? Was that when you started having the ideas for it? Like, wait, how did that start coming together with the fanzine?
Well, I bought a few myself, and I always liked it. And, I collect things anyway. I collect records, tapes, films, everything I like. And I was at the time. Sorry, I was what was I doing? It was the summer anyway, so I wasn't doing my masters yet. But I had a bit of free time, and I was messing around with a photocopier, and that was a mistake in the end because I remember when I did the first scene, I put on the inside. I was like, "We're going to do this every was it month or something, or 2 months or something like that."
Yeah, I think it was bi-monthly or
That didn't
something.
happen.
First.
That didn't
Yeah,
happen anyway. And also, I was like telling people, "Yeah, I'm gonna like make a zine, and it's gonna be photocopied every time and whatever." It's like stupid, like But I think the zine thing is not really. I think so. Obviously, the first one was majority just reviews, and there was an interview, and there was ads and stuff like that. And then the second one was 2 interviews and more kind of longer reviews. And then the most recent one has no reviews, no ads, just interviews. So I think there's 22 pages.
was there? And was that a request from people reading
No,
that?
no. I kind of realized that, like, what's the point in doing this when who's gonna care about your take on some album?
Yeah,
Like, honestly, like, I think it's fine. Like, this format's cool. Like, the podcast thing, or if you're just gonna, like, have it on the back kind of thing. But, like, no one wants to really read. Oh, this guy liked the new fucking whatever Bandcamp black metal album. So I think the thing I wanted to do was, like, have a kind of artifact, if that makes sense, an artifact of a point in time in a niche piece of music, like, because I remember now, because I went to UCC, and in the library there was a exhibition about zines, like, from the 80s and 90s, and actually the guy I print the zines off, he used to make them in the 90s, but it was all this stuff, like, like when there's no, like, real internet, and the zine stuff made sense, but it was just kind of interesting to see, like, a zine with, like, a date on it and what locations from. So it's like a Cork zine from February 1989 or something. Like, it's kind of interesting to see that someone put that together at that time, and what is in the zine, what the people are saying, and like, all that stuff. So that's probably why I did it, and I just liked the format anyway. I thought it was cool, and, like, I don't really read reviews online, like, sometimes, but, like, I don't think much people do. But I think the physical copy was just the main thing, really, And as I said, just moved into interviews, and I don't think anyone does an interview with the zine thinking, "Oh, I'll get, like, massive exposure," and like, it's like, "Oh, I'm in, like, hot press or something," But it's more of a thing of like, well, that issue has 7 of those bands, and it's always going to be like that. I always kind of wanted the content to be almost timeless, not like these reviews, to be honest. Like as I said, you can read an interview with Fenriz from the 90s, and it's still cool to read, So even if the band has like 5 sales on Bandcamp, if I think they're cool, I kind of want to put them in there, and people might find them, but also just as a sort of like, I don't know what to say about it, to be honest. Like, I don't lose money about it. I don't really lose time over it. I have ways now of, you put the questions in, they give you back the answers. I can slot them in. Like, it's not really that hard as much anymore. But yeah, I just kind of keep it for events, but there's no gigs now. So yeah, usually now, like, if I have a release coming, I'll time the zine to come out at the same time. But yeah, before it was kind of like, it shouldn't have to be, but it was like a pull for people to come to gigs if the zine was on sale after the first one. So there are certain people who wanted a zine that didn't make the first gig. So I said, you can get it the next gig, So then they have to come. Like, or even the second one. Like, whenever I had like, whenever the zine like debuted or something, it'd be like it would the first few copies would be available only at the gig. So the second one was Urban Assault. So a lot of people came to Urban Assault to get obviously to see the bands, but like, there's a bit more of a kind of pull there, that isn't music. And I just thought that was kind of cool as well, It's like saying that we have a T-shirt, it's only going to be available at this gig. So there's more of a kind of, even if you don't get a T-shirt, it's kind of this weird thing in the back of your mind of, yeah, I'll go to that,
Yeah. I'm waiting for the day now that like when gigs are back running now in the next 12 or 18 months, and I'm hoping now that there's some fucker who just goes to the gig, pays admittance, buys the fanzine, turns around, flips off the entire crowd, and beelines out the door.
Well, one guy did that actually, and he didn't flip off the crowd, but I actually know him well.
Like paid to get into the gig, didn't stay, just got the fanzine and left.
He hung around, but he didn't really, like, not even in a bad way. He came up and I was like, you live 2 hours into the country, and he's like, yeah. I said I'd come up, and he had the zine in his hand, and he's like, oh, I just came up for this, to be honest, and whatever. But not like, he wasn't being like nasty. He was just like,
no.
Because I didn't really see him for the rest of the night, so he just wandered in and out. I think that's kind of funny, but like, it's like he traveled into the city, paid into the gig, just to buy my shitty fucking put together piece of paper, like.
Well, it says a lot though, doesn't it? Because when you think about it as well, like every issue of it is sold out. Like, do you know what I mean? It's been rare that there's been copies kind of stagnant about, and it's not like they're just printed to 12 or anything. Like, do you know what I mean? There's
about 100, about 100.
That's it, and every time they're gone out the door, like, do you know what I mean? So
people like to. Sorry, no, like people like to, when they're buying a tape, like throw it into the cart as well,
Oh, that's it, like, do you know what I mean? But it's nice though, like you said, it is like, I prefer the format now reading it back. I only got to read through the third issue recently now, and like you said, it is very nice to have it like that as a kind of period in time, a timestamp. These are bands this date, this time, like, do you know what I mean? Like the review thing and everything like that. It was fun kind of putting those together. But like you were touching on there, it's very true. Like, no one really buys those for reviews anymore. Like I think the only time that I'd consciously look at a review anymore is like, do you know, if it's a big release and some places get like, do you know, the promotional copies before it comes out, and you want to have an idea what it's going to be like.
Of course,
that's normally the only time. Other than that, always YouTube. Like we always talk about this. Your man P Pardo over at Sea Tranquility, channels like that, lads who actually know what they're talking about, who've been listening to records for a while.
I think he's hit the nail on the head really with that kind of thing. Like, in a sense that he's got this thing, he's got like people who know what they're talking about, in a sense that they've been around, but also kind of like they just enjoy it, But I think he's hit it on the head in a format sense. because he obviously didn't they run the website. Now the website's still going, but I think his lottery ticket, so to speak, is the YouTube now.
Oh, 100%. About 15 years, 15, 20 years he was doing the site before.
Yeah.
I remember watching a video to that he took it over for someone else around 2000 or 2001, and he was doing that for the X amount of time, and it wasn't until the YouTube channel launch where, Jesus, it's plateaued in the last year now, like it's skyrocketing off, like it's went from like 20 or 30,000 subscribers last year, now it's at 51 or 52,000, like.
Well, it's the kind of thing like that. Like he's got it right in that he's kept the same format. It's like, it's not too deep. Like it's just like, oh, like they're going to talk about their favorite, albums from 1984, and it's like, you know what's going to be said, but like you just have it on when you're making your breakfast or something. I like it's just, but I don't think that would work on text.
Oh God, no. Like imagine
maybe it'd work on paper, but not in on a screen. To be honest,
no.
I'm getting sick of screens. To be honest, like I think everyone is. So.
Oh Jesus, yeah. But that's the thing now is like hopefully that, and it's kind of the reason I started this now is like while we're waiting for gigs and stuff like this to come about, I'm hoping kind of more kind of things like these kind of start popping up. Do you know what I mean? Like try and keep kind of that. I don't know how to really put it now. Is like, do you know the music and everything like that at gigs is absolutely fantastic and everything like that. Do you know what I mean? And I don't mean to sound any bit patronizing now when I say this, but what I'm really, really starting to miss the most, the longer this pandemic has been going on, has been literally like we're having now the conversation about like, you know, maybe not necessarily the conversation is because I'm interviewing you, but you know the way now, if we were off, if we weren't being mic'd, we'd be talking about albums, we'd be talking about this thing at this place. Do you know what I mean? Those type of things, the conversations and stuff around gigs, that's kind of what I've been missing the most. And I'm kind of hoping more stuff, kind of like what I'm trying to do with the podcast and everything like that, and what Pete is doing with that and everything else, and what you've been doing with the zine. I'm hoping the one positive to come from the pandemic is more kind of social networking things like that start to come about, if you get me.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I don't mean to be pessimistic, but like post-pandemic, how things like the podcasts and all that kind of thing keep going. I think they'll obviously keep going, but like when gigs come back, I think there'll be almost an overload of gigs. Not instantly, but the podcast thing is like everyone's got podcasts now, and I think it's going to be, well, when there's, it's almost like everyone has a podcast, but there's not as much to talk about because there's no gigs. But then when there is gigs and things to talk about, there'll be less podcasts, So,
but I think everyone's going to be out and about doing stuff like and going to gigs again and everything.
Well, I guess that's kind of a good thing for everything, because that just means like what podcasts you get and whatever are going to be more, like, I suppose, dedicated or more fleshed out, But yeah, no, like I'm looking forward to what you're doing, because I think like there's not really a extreme. I have to put that in, but because there are metal podcasts, but there's nothing like that will let me talk about or let me listen to, I'm trying to think of a band. Of course, I'm on a music podcast, and I can't think of a band.
Oh, we don't actually listen to music at all. That's
yeah.
Big rules here now. Like,
I look to my left and I see You Know Who in the wall, and I can't. Don't say it. You've mentioned that band already. Don't say it. Yeah, Thin Lizzy. But I think it's just cool to have like certain podcasts that are like certain niches. Like, I don't really listen to much. I think like there's a lot, but I listen to like 3, and all of them are quite specific. So, but yeah, no, I like the podcast stuff.
Yeah, like that. Well, that's the hope of this one now. Is I'm kind of trying to dip into what Pete had done over in Sea Tranquility a small bit. Where like there is a specific niche to it, but it's not closed off to either. I'll leave it a little bit open ended. Like if I'm struggling to find interviews for a few weeks, I have no problem getting like yourself and a few of the lads on, and we could talk about like favorite Irish releases of a certain year or something like that. You know what I mean?
But I gotta say as well, the thing about what that guy Pete's doing is like every odd video is about films.
Yeah,
and
that's another one. Yeah,
but it's not like radically different. You know, it's like you know that like it's basically the same thing, just the music, but like you know, like it's a music platform, but he kind of I actually liked the film ones just as much. That guy Chris is hilarious. Like,
What was that thing? The cheese steak sandwich joke.
yeah. Well, I just love he hates like if he hates an album or film, he still bought it like 4 or 5 times. You know, like he was going on about that Danzig Elvis thing,
Oh yeah.
and
Did you listen to that
he had
actually?
2 or 3 copies of it. Like,
I was rattling my brain now. New Year's was only last week, and I was really trying to think of the worst albums of last year. And that genuinely, that just missed out at my number one spot for worst album of the year. I'll touch on that now in another episode.
it
and
might have
everything
been
like that.
good 20 years. No, I don't know, but like I think he picked the wrong songs, and
Oh, and the production was shit too. Like lo-fi production would
yeah,
have been great, but like that would have suited it. But
yeah,
oh, it's
one
just
mic in the room thing would have been cool. But like I
yeah,
don't know,
that's it.
it was like too clean or something. Well, I don't know. Just made a mistake, and the cover is terrible. I get what he was doing. The whole Elvis, you know, Elvis covers are always like
Yeah,
just a picture and the text and stuff. Well, it just looks terrible. Like, you know, I don't know.
it's kind
Probably,
of like it kind of looked like a stock footage or stock photo they had of him from a certain
yeah, it
suit
didn't look
or
like he
shoot.
posed for it at all.
Yeah, it would just like the here's something from like a tour poster. Let's throw it on here. Do like the font from the first Elvis logo. We'll just ship it out and people will buy it.
I don't.
Absolutely atrocious record. Like
I don't want to be railing on Danzig because it's probably easy these days. I like Danzig, like, you know, but it's just I think like the album just sounded like Elvis, as if Elvis was singing right now, like dead. You know,
if the
like
corpse of Elvis was making an
exactly. Like,
album today,
it just
like yeah.
wasn't good. Like,
I'm wondering now what people are going to think now because we started off this interview talking about, and that was the intro and everything like that for beforehand is all like, oh, Dave is doing this, Dave is doing that, and now we're finishing off talking about Elvis or Danzig doing Elvis covers, like.
you can't not talk about Elvis and that.
But
Rock
yeah,
and
that's
roll
a fair point.
podcast. It's the king,
And
like, you know, you
yeah,
can't. Well,
that's going to be next week's episode. Now is like our top 10 favorite Elvis albums of all time.
why not? Like,
Yeah. No, I like Elvis. I'm not going to knock Elvis. I enjoy Elvis a lot.
I love Elvis. Yeah,
Yeah. Oddly enough, it was actually Kira's grandfather got me into Elvis. Yeah,
oh,
I
nice.
was not expecting that. Like, just this 8-year-old white guy from the middle of Ireland just sat down one day, like, when I'd start going out with Kira, nervous as fuck. He just turns around to me and goes, "Do you listen to Elvis like this?" And I was just like, "Oh, thank fuck!" Like, do you know what
You
I
got
mean? He's not going to be strict. Like,
you got to watch his comeback special from like '68
I've seen
because
it.
it's
Brilliant.
brilliant. He's singing his heart out. He's
Yeah.
really pouring it out, like. But
It's the one thing you can't knock for him though is like even people that don't like Elvis, you watch live footage of him. Jesus Christ, he's bucking sweat at the end of it. Like,
oh yeah. Well, it doesn't help that he's wearing black leather and shit. Like, but, Elvis, the original, you know, black leather guy, I guess. You know, but,
we'll jinx it now. That'll be the
Elvis
next.
playing Destroyer 666 or something like. You know, it's like.
One of the lads is going to hear this now, and months down the line when we're able to go out for pints, there's just going to be someone in the corner just going like, "Black metal demos for the middle fire." I'm going on too much of a tangent. I'm going to start wrapping things up now. Is there anything you want to name drop or anything before we sign off?
I
Other than
don't
the
know.
Danzig Elvis album, like.
Well, what did I get recently? Didn't actually get much recently. Oh, the new Transylvania album's good. Yeah,
Oh,
very good.
fucking fantastic. I was not expecting that to be as good as it was now. I thought it'd be good now, but Jesus, I think it was 2 days ago I listened to that for the first time, and I genuinely had it on repeat about 3 times in a row. Fucking fantastic.
Oh, I
album.
like the. What was it? Something night. Can't remember the name. I gone blank. That was good, but no, this was great. What else? I mean, I could recommend like films. Like no one wants to.
Sure, I might as well name drop this now as we chatted a small bit for anyone listening that like David mentioned that the boys over in Seeing Tranquility do is that we might do a thing once every few episodes or once every month or two where might get yourself and our mate Jack to hop on. We might set 3 movies aside we're going to watch over the month, sit down and talk about them. We'll try and maybe leave it to like 1 classic and 2 kind of more obscure horror based films like.
Yeah, I watched Black Christmas recently. That was pretty good. I really like that.
Was that the 70s slasher one? That's like one of the first slashers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
who's in that again? What's the guy from Space Odyssey is in it? What's her name? I can't remember her name. But what else I watched? I watched. Oh Jesus Christ Almighty! The one thing I'm good at talking about, I can't even talk about. It was
Put notes for this for next time now.
Yeah, I watched the entirety of Faulty Towers over Christmas, which I suppose is like.
You
Again,
can't
if you
go
haven't
wrong with
watched,
Fawlty Towers, like in
no,
fairness.
exactly.
You know what
Like,
I mean, it's absolutely flawless. Like,
I'll probably shout out Dragged Across Concrete. This is probably the only place I could probably shout that film out. And a film called Mandy. It's Nicolas Cage.
yeah. I keep seeing the thumbnail for that for the what's it called? That Dead Meat channel. I've yet to watch that film.
It's
to watch
basically
it now.
and not in a stupid fucking not in a stupid cheesy way, but it's like people call it like heavy metal, the film or something. But like it kind of is, like, you know, like it's really really good, really entertaining. So yeah, watch that. I think that's probably the only film I can recommend that people will like on this podcast. But yeah.
Perfect. Do you want to do a sign off, Yoke, or anything like that?
Yeah, we'll sign off. Yeah.
Okay, perfect stuff. Is there anything you want to say to everyone before we head off?
Yeah, just keep listening to this podcast. I know, like, mine is the first one, and it's just kind of getting some cobwebs off and stuff. But like, yeah, like you told me about the guests you have, you know, lined up and whether they're out.
Yeah,
by the
well,
time this comes
hopefully
out, man, like it's going to be a good one. Like,
that's it. I won't say who it is because that interview is yet to be recorded. But by the time people hear this, I'm expecting you'll be episode 2 and that person will be episode 1. So fingers crossed, all goes well over the weekend.
Wow.
And yeah, so
what an absolute disappointment this one is. So compared to that, wow.
No.
It's been good though. It's been good. Time flew. We got to talk about something that isn't me at some point, because I really don't like talking about myself.
No, that's the worst. It's the worst thing about, like, normally when people have stuff to promote, like when the world is all regular, it's grand because it's just, you know, half an hour belts out and everything like that. But when you're kind of stuck in a spot where, like, you know, the album isn't ready to go yet and everything like that. And cheers, by the way, for hopping on, even though it wasn't ready yet. Like, do you know what I mean?
Oh, no problem. No, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, spot on. So, all right, signing off for Mr. David O'Mahony. David, do you want to take a look?
Yeah, good luck. And if you don't like Thin Lizzy, fuck off. So
perfect stuff. You heard it here first.
I got Nightlife in my hand here, so that's
all right, we're
signing after this. Go on, signing off.
Signing off. Good luck, lads. So yeah, that was our sit-down interview with Dave. If you want to keep up to date with anything that Dave mentioned throughout the interview, you can do so by following. You can find Gealach on Instagram, you can find Cursewielder on Instagram, you can find Flail of Venom on Instagram, and you can find Fomorian Hate on Instagram. But the most important thing to take away from all that now, lads, is when you go and find Fomorian Hate to keep up to date with the releases they have coming out throughout 2021, be sure to click the link in bio and have a gander through the new website that Dave had set up for the label recently. They have they have a new store and stuff like that and all that kind of crack. So if you want to keep up to date with all that type of crack, be sure to follow all those pages. And yeah, I'll be sharing some of them throughout the week anyway on the From the Depths Metal page, so if you follow us as well, you'll be able to see those. So yeah, if you want to support the show in any way, you can do so by following us on Facebook. That is at From the Depths Metal Radio. You can also follow us on Instagram at From the Depths Metal. We normally share everything to do with the podcast and that, everything to do with the radio show, which I'll touch on in a minute, which is returned this week. And as well as that, we do a bit of record sharing and stuff like that as well. So yeah, before I go, I just want to give a quick shout out. We are going to be returning with our weekly radio show on Wired FM this coming Wednesday at 8 o'clock. That is 99.9 FM. For those of you who don't know what that is, I host a weekly metal show on From the Depths on Wired FM. It was initially called From the Depths, which is where the name of the podcast stemmed from. But we are now deciding to just use From the Depths as the overall name for everything we do in relation to this. The radio show going forward will now be entitled Cuts from the Crypt and is dedicated to all things underground extreme metal. So if you want your weekly dose of black metal, grindcore,
and death metal and all that kind of stuff. Be sure to follow us and give us a listen on Wednesday. If you miss any of the episodes of the show and you want to catch up, we will have a link to our Mixcloud with all old episodes of that program as well available to listen to, as well as a few of the live streams that Dave that was just on and myself did earlier on during the first lockdown. So yeah, that is all the news, that is all the goss, and that is all of episode 2 of the From the Depths podcast. Lads, thank you very, very much for listening, and I hope you'll join us next week when we have a very, very special guest lined up for you, who I cannot name yet because the interview is not in the can and I don't want to jinx it. But if the interview is recorded in the next 48 hours, I will let you know via social media. So yeah, even more encouragement to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. So yeah, as always, I've been Emmett. Thank you very much for listening to the podcast, lads. Good night, God bless, and I'll see you next week.